The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. If I sound excited, it's because I am. It's Wednesday, and you know on Wednesday we have a really exciting lineup starting with Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh joins us for 1 hour on Wednesday mornings to answer your questions live and in real time. It's a very exciting thing. I want to remind all of you, and Emily's going to show you on the screen some of the ways that you can interact with us. And while she's showing you that, I'm going to remind you there's only one way to watch us today live. I'm hoping by tomorrow that's going to change. But right now, the only place to see us live is www.autism-live.com. When you go there, if you are watching on anything other than a tablet, the show plays 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there is a lovely white box that you can put your cursor there, type whatever you want, hit enter, and it shows up magically right here on our screen. When we're live, we have the opportunity to ask our experts your questions in real time. If you're watching us at a different time when we're not live, we'll be able to see that question the next time we come in and ask it of the next appropriate expert when we're doing the live show. So that's a wonderful thing. But as Emily just showed you, there are other ways to get in contact with us. I referenced the fact that we're pushing right now to have another way for you to watch us live. A lot of you are wanting to watch on your tablets, whether it's an iPad, a Nabi, or to watch us on an Android tablet. And our wonderful technical director here, Emily, has found a solution for you. And if you will help us out, we just need, I think it was 24 more people this morning that need to subscribe to our YouTube page. Go to our YouTube page, hit the subscribe button. If you're not already logged into a Google account, it will ask you to put your Google account login there, subscribe to us, and if we get 24 more people, we will be able to stream live for you on our YouTube page, which means you'll be able to watch us live on your iPads and other devices, your Nabis, your Android tablets, all of those things. So it's a worthwhile venture. We hope that you will subscribe. And by the way, if you go to our Facebook page, there is a contest right now. All you have to do is share information about subscribing to our YouTube page, and you could be entered to win. The prize package is a beautiful bottle of One Hope wine, Temple Grandin's new book, The Autistic Brain, and a new edition of the game Cornered, put out by Endless Games. It's a great game for kids on the autism spectrum. It's a great game, period, but our kids on the autism spectrum really like it. If you share that post on our Facebook page, on your Facebook page, you'll be entered to win that prize package. All right, without further ado, it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism, and now you get to ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen, our very special guest on Wednesdays, Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure, always. It's the fun part of my week, too, Shannon.
Well, I'll tell you, it's so exciting for me because I get to learn and from all of you and from Dr. Granpeesheh as well.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
And before we start with questions, we've had a lot of people writing in this week about how much this segment in particular means to them and having access to ask you questions. But we do want to remind people that that no one on the show can give child-specific advice.
That's true.
The information that you guys write in, and as specific as you are, and as specific as you can be, the more I think it helps you to answer questions. But even then, it's not enough information to do justice by giving child-specific advice.
Absolutely. And sometimes I feel really bad because, I know that we give some general guidance, and that's really all we can do here. But in some cases, I know that parents reach out and they will write me, even personally, some really long emails. And God, I really wish I could just sit down and talk to them and help them. And sometimes I do that. But it's pretty impossible for me now. I mean, I barely get through my 300 or 400 emails a day myself. But
I can't imagine.
So, we'll do the best we can with just as much as we can give information. We can't really go into exact specifics that apply to each child.
But it means so much. I mean, I know as a parent how much it means to be able to hear your thoughts on something, and you are able, even not being child-specific, to steer us in directions. I always leave here with questions about, where I'm going to go next with GEM. I learned so much, and I know you guys have written in and said that as well. So we all thank you.
It's my pleasure. Someday I hope as we, increase our viewership and this, maybe grows, I'd love to just have a regular show that we do together for 2 or 3 hours a week.
Awesome.
That'd be great.
Don't tease me.
No, seriously. I mean, that's funny.
I'd love that.
It's great. It's really. I hope that it means a lot to me when parents write in and say that it helped, or even just that we understand what they're going through.
And
what it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And it's meant a lot to me this week to read and we're going to start with a follow-up. In fact, 2 follow-ups that we've gotten, and I sent you the first part of this. We had a parent that wrote in, and we addressed this last week, that she's got a 4-year-old on the spectrum and a 27-year-old brother with Asperger's and a great deal of difficulty with paranoia, anxiety, depression with the brother, and she was asking for help, saying how much help she had seen her 4-year-old get, and could some of that be applied to this 27-year-old. Now, you had answered that preliminary question and then asked for follow-up, and she did follow back up. She wrote this week, thank you so... First she said thank you in all caps, and then thank you so very much for reading my question and for Dr. Doreen answering it with such understanding of what her family is going through. My brother has stated to a psychiatrist before that he hadn't harmed himself because of my son.
I know, that's incredible.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, yes.
And the quotation was, "He is the light in my dark world." That's what he said. I'm not too proud to admit I cried all through the live show. Even though I watched it in tears, I was still able to take notes. That's an autism parent. Crying and taking notes at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And she writes all in caps, "God bless you in the program. God bless Dr. Doreen. I just wanted to hug you." And I'm always sending you air hugs. I just wanted to help you and hug you and the doctor through the computer screen, LOL. My son is actually, according to ADOS, now that I just got the results, is moderate autism. My brother is taking Zyprexa right now, which isn't really helping. The behavioral hospital is St. Vincent's in Harrison, New York. He's going to right now is a hospital that has a program which focuses on group therapies that have to do with anxiety and depression. It is also important to know he is under the umbrella of the psychosis diagnosis because they haven't been able to rule out schizophrenia due to his sensitivity with the color red, etc. That's still not clear to us because the hospital is bound by HIPAA, won't give us much information. Very interesting comment. He was an inpatient at this hospital, and then he was discharged after 2 weeks. He got transferred to their partial hospitalization program, and now he is attending a program called PROS, P-R-O-S. She continued to write in, does Dr. Doreen know of any resources that can help him better here in New York, like a psychiatrist or another hospital program, something that can also work with him on his difficulty to communicate his needs and wants and poor adaptive and socialization skills. Also, she says that they're an office here in New York that specializes in children. May I ask what's the office contact number and how I can contact them about my son?
Yeah.
Dr. Doreen Doreen directly, and she said, thank you again.
Sure.
And she included an email so that we can write back to her.
Right. So, and gosh.
It's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot that she's going through. It's a lot for, when we think about having a 4-year-old on the spectrum and all the things that you have to go through and the hoops that you have to jump through. As one parent described to me today, it's hoops that are on fire.
Right.
And moving.
Right.
And then to have a 27-year-old brother and seeing, this connection between the two of them that's very emotional.
It is extremely emotional, and I have a very strong connection, I think, or bond to the families that have been dealing with this for a long, long time, because I have.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I hear about people who are 27, let's say, on the spectrum, I don't know, I feel like they're my kids, because back then, when I was working with kids that age, the services were just so far and few. I mean, just like there was nothing in the country, so it was very possible that's why we have so many now who didn't really get the help they needed back then, because it just wasn't known. Yeah. And it really, one of the things I credit Autism Speaks, they changed, the organization Autism Speaks, they really changed the entire world of autism by just the awareness they brought. And sometimes I have to tell Suzanne that, because they really made a huge impact in terms of awareness, and that is fabulous. And so before that, though, there were so many people like this who were struggling, and I have my kids, kids that I saw back then who are now in their 30s.
Right.
And so my heart really goes out to this mom and sibling. And so what I think the best thing I could do at this point is we do have an office right now in Larchmont where this is interesting, because just yesterday or day before yesterday, the new additional second emergency regulations for New York came out. And we've been waiting for these for a while. New York had the insurance mandate had been written in a very wacky way, which essentially said that anyone who provides services has to be both board certified and licensed, and that limited the entire state of New York to 40 people or something, 41 people that could provide services. And so we've been working very, very hard with Autism Speaks, and they are just so fabulous at changing law. They're amazing at that, and they got this through. And I have to say, I really do credit Dan Unum and the entire legal team at Autism Speaks, and they worked very hard to change this and make the government of New York understand that it's impossible. Yeah. And so now we have the new regs, which essentially say that BCBAs can practice, which is what it should say. Yeah. And it just came out. So now that we have that, we are starting, in fact, we met yesterday, and we're starting to look at locations to expand. Mm-hmm. And so we are currently training a lot of BCBAs for New York, and looking at opening a couple of new locations. Mm-hmm. First, we were going to move to either somewhere around to a larger site, somewhere either in Larchmont or White Plains, and then we are also looking at just going into the various boroughs. I don't think we're going to go into New York City, like Manhattan, right now, just because it's very hard to get into Manhattan, but we might. And as a parent and someone who's been in this world for a while, I really would love your help in trying to help us get find the appropriate location. Start with families who are in need. We do have a lot of families who need screening right now from us, who've been waiting for this law to change. Yeah. So if you want the location, and the person I would talk to is Deidre King. Mm-hmm. Deidre is the clinical manager at Larchmont, and if you go on the centerforautism.com website and go to locations and look for Larchmont, you'll have all the contact information. The other person who's very helpful in Larchmont is our operations manager, Angelina Acevedo, and she's fabulous as well, and they've both been around for a while, so they'll be able to guide you in terms of who can help and where to go. They will also know better than I do the physicians in the area area. I know that there are some very good, actually, hospital programs that do focus on autism, so I know that Deidre will be able to guide you.
Okay. So centerforautism.com, go to locations tab. It's the Larchmont one.
Larchmont office.
And I know because I recently was calling Deidre, make sure it's the Rochester office and the Larchmont office are there. Twice I called the Rochester office by accident. So make sure that you call the Larchmont one.
Right.
But for those of you who are in upstate New York, there's also the Rochester one as well.
Yeah, and we'll probably be opening another one up there too.
Interesting.
There's a huge need in New York.
I personally am pushing for Long Island
That's
as well.
the first one I'm interested in as well. I want to
Uh-huh.
I want to do Long Island, and I want to look at Queens, and I don't know. We'll see after that.
Okay, because we just have heard from a lot of people on Long Island that they're wanting those services.
Yeah, and and I'll take a moment of the show to just mention that one of the things I do all the time is I try to look at our admissions database, and as well as, a lot of parents call in here, Shannon, to CARD and the various other businesses that we have, to the 800 number.
Yeah.
And we have a very good database for that. And what I try to do is I scan the database for locations where there's multiple people asking for help. So we do offer, obviously, if a family calls, let's say the process is, a family will call and they'll say, I'm in Kansas, whatever, I'm in Tennessee, and so on, and I need help. And what we'll do is we will contact them. Initially, they'll go through, if they're far from us, it'll go through to John Galley. So his department, of course, is remote services, and remote services are families who are outside of our scope, or they're outside of a 30-50 mile radius of one of our locations. And so what we do in those cases is we hire local therapists. We don't even do workshops anymore. We just do remote services. So we'll hire therapists for you wherever you are.
Okay.
And we assign a supervisor to you, and the supervisor starts to fly back and forth, do web-based overview, and so come out, interview, train, all your staff. So we do run the programs. The only difference with a local would be just that the supervisor flies back and forth.
Okay.
And because we have so many locations now, you always have a supervisor that's relatively close. Like, we're not really flying people from the West Coast to the East Coast anymore. We're just about, as you know, to open our Baton Rouge office, which, people on this show, if there's anybody who needs help in the Louisiana area, please let us know.
And you should do it quickly. I know I was at a meeting yesterday where they were talking about that they have already exceeded the number of people that they expected to come to the open house. So if you want to go to that open house
for Louisiana,
yes, you should reserve immediately. And if you want services there, get on the list immediately, because it's filling up.
Yeah.
And so there is some immediacy there.
Right. And Louisiana actually is not that bad. It's kind of, I'll talk about Louisiana in a second too, because that has an interesting mandate too. But in terms of which state was I talking about? New York.
We're talking about New York initially, yeah.
So, one of the things is when you call and you request services, and then we start providing remote services, more and more families from that region tend to hear about us. And then I'm looking on the admissions lists and all of our other lists, and I see, okay, we have, like, let's say, 6 families in this one area, and that's then that city or town becomes a target.
Right.
And then we start looking at the state mandates and whether or not we can actually provide health care, and is there funding, and we start getting all of our licenses and all the things we need for that location, and then we place an internal, and that takes a month for us to evaluate, and then we place internal ads, and thank God we now have, I think close to 200 BCBAs here.
Yeah.
And we might shortly be actually hiring a whole batch of new ones. So and then usually what happens now, which is fabulous, is someone wants to transfer, and so that's already a trained CARD person, and that is awesome, and that's all we need. And once we transfer a BCBA, the BCBA grows the location, because we can do that. We have all the administrative support to do that. So, and then we can help more and more families, and that area grows.
Right.
So really with Baton Rouge now, the reason that we started looking at that was that Kat Minch, one of our very senior supervisor. Kat is currently director of expansion, actually.
We had her on the show last week, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love Kat. She's fabulous. She's a true Cardian.
Yeah.
She's been here for a very long time. Has her PhD and ABA. Very, very just fabulous person. Yeah. I don't know any parent who's worked with Kat who doesn't really love her, and she does very, very well with the kids.
Cool.
So Kat is moving to Baton Rouge, or has moved. She just moved. Yesterday I got an email from her, she's there. And so that's why we said, let's look at the South. Let's start looking. And so, I think we're already past like 60 people signed up now already. So we need to get that going.
Absolutely. And I think the takeaway for families is, once you've been identified and you know that you have a child on the autism spectrum, a lot of times you reach out to a local support group, and then you have 2 or 3 families. And if you're sitting there and saying, why don't we have something, you do have the power. Call. If you get on the phone, they recognize it and they see it and they go where the need is and where parents are pushing and saying, I want something. So make sure you speak and make sure that you get others to speak for you. And that's it. Because people write in all the time and say, how do we get services here?
And
that's
Louisiana, actually, that's what I wanted to mention. Yeah, thank you, Shannon, for reminding me that. But Louisiana does have insurance coverage for autism. Mm-hmm. However, I think they're forming a board, and the board won't be formed until October, which is kind of funny. Their coverage actually initiates, there's licensing available for behavior analysts as of August, but the board that governs it won't be meeting until October. And it was just kind of funny. So what they've said is that as of August, you need to be a licensed provider in Louisiana, and BCBAs can become licensed or ABA licensed as long as they've taken what's called a jurisprudence exam by the state. It's an ethics exam, sort of like so you know how to be an ethical provider.
Right.
Now, that exam doesn't exist for BCBAs. However, and it won't exist until the board meets and develops whatever or decides how they're going to provide that. But I'm a licensed psychologist as well, and part of our licensure, you do have to take a jurisprudence exam. And so I'm licensed in multiple states, and I was looking on the Louisiana board, and thank God they have reciprocity with Texas, where I am licensed, as well as I'm what's called I have a certificate for professional quality, CPQ, and once you have that, it's easier. It's a mobility program. It's easier to provide services in other states. So we will be fine because I have already taken that jurisprudence exam. So I'm expecting sometime between August and the end of the year where other providers will have a hard time because there is no exam to qualify them. We should be able to start providing services already in Louisiana.
Good to know.
Want to help. There's a lot of families there.
Yeah, and if you are interested in getting services, make sure that you RSVP. Go to centerforautism.com and RSVP to that open house, and put in a call to Kat and say you want to be on the list to get services too. Don't wait.
Just call card. Yeah, and before I forget, I just want to thank this mom.
Yeah.
Very kind words and very touching email. Thank you.
And we've got more of those coming up. Let's take a short break, and then we're going to come back and follow up on one more from last week, and then we're going to move a little overseas from somebody writing in from Africa wanting help. So stick with us.
You know, Shannon, at Act Today, we're always looking for fun, creative ways that the public can help us raise money for those with autism that can't afford treatment and care.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, right now, Paper Clouds Apparel has a really great promotion that they're doing. They feature limited edition t-shirts that are designed by people who are on the autism spectrum, and they give the proceeds to a wonderful organization. Right now, it goes to benefit Autism Care and Treatment Today.
And guess who that artist is? By none other than your son, Jim. And he has made an adorable robot illustration.
And you can buy the t-shirt, the tote bag, or the hat right now by going to www.papercloudsapparel.com. And as we said, 50% of the proceeds go to Autism Care and Treatment Today. To what kinds of things, Nancy?
It's going to fund treatment like social skills, school tuition, ABA therapy, safety equipment, summer camp tuition. I could go on.
Yes, and she will, too. But in any case, if she just talks about it, it won't happen. You have to go there and get a t-shirt, a hat, or a tote bag. In fact, get all of them.
It's a fun way to raise money for those less fortunate.
want to remind everyone that Paper Clouds Apparel limited edition t-shirt that my son designed that had the robot on it, that's only until Monday, and 50% of the proceeds go to Autism Care and Treatment Today, a wonderful organization that you know something about because you founded that.
And we need help. I mean, I have to say, we're doing as much as we possibly can, and we founded this organization. I think we're all just so tired, honestly, Shannon, you know, but we founded this organization about, 2013, I guess like 7 years ago or 8 years ago, and we've handed out service grants to families over $1 million,
yes.
You know, which I'm very proud of that we've done that. A lot of that I credit to Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, who's just an incredible woman.
I agree with you.
And but we need help. We get now more grants than we are able to raise funding for. I mean, we work very hard to bring in funds. As you know, I often even ask card staff. I mean, I'm constantly sending out notices to my employees and saying, hey, anything, $5, you know, just put anything into this fund because we want to help these families. But there's a lot of issues right now, and parents need a lot of help. So.
Yes. It's the truth. And this is one way that people can do it. 50% of the proceeds go to Act Today. You get a wonderful bamboo t-shirt. They're the softest t-shirts I've ever felt in my entire life. So putting it out there. Paper Clouds Apparel, and we'll keep you posted on other things you can do for Act Today. I think Nancy and I are going to be talking about that a little bit during the next segment. Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
Perfect.
But in any case, I want to follow up. Somebody wrote in and said, hi, I wrote in a few weeks ago in regards to my 31-month-old son getting 10 hours from the regional center. I want to remind people that here in the state of California, we have a regional center system which has been instrumental. It's how my son got therapy funded. Otherwise, I couldn't have afforded it. Regional center's been going through a lot of transitions, and they had said that 10 hours was the recommendation for this family. I want to thank you for answering. Now, because the provider that they had recommended 10 hours, and we talked at length about the fact that that's not the prescription for a 31-month-old with autism. It just isn't going to be effective. You recommended that they contact, because where they are, there is a card office. She says, now I've contacted the admissions office and started the process, but they've told me it's going to take 45 to 60 days to start therapy. A lot of that, the considerable portion of that, is because that's how long it takes the regional center. Want to point that out. What do I do in the meantime? I don't want my son to go 60 days with no therapy, and what will happen to OT and speech? They had 1 hour of each. Also, he has a twin, and his sister has not been diagnosed, but she is receiving the same amount of ABA and speech. What will happen to her? Thank you. And by the way, I love you both. I watch and learn from you every night after I put my 3 kids to sleep. God bless you. Thank you.
That's very nice.
Isn't that sweet? And I hope that you'll... because I think this is one of the families that has asked, can we be able to watch it live on the iPad? We're pushing for that. Subscribe on our YouTube page so that we can make that possible for everyone. But let's talk a little bit about that gap. We've talked about that a lot in the last couple of days. People, they realize, okay, I need ABA and I need a certain amount, and they start the process, and there is always lag time. The funding source has to kick in. It has to get staffed for therapists. You have to fill out paperwork. And as a parent, I can remember, and the A word, the mom talks about it. She says, like, my heart being squeezed. Everybody has told me that it's essential that we start as soon as possible. I'm ready. And now you're telling me I got to wait 60 days. It's a horrible wait.
Yeah, hurry up and wait.
Yes, exactly.
You know, there are things that you can do during this 60-day period. Obviously, I would really strongly suggest that you get on the IBT website, which is the Institute for Behavioral Training, and you start going through the modules for training, parent training. I can't tell you how useful this will be to you.
Yes.
When you learn what it is we're doing and the whole concept behind it, and just the theory and the practice, and you understand everything that's on there, it will make life just so much easier, and you will really be able to help when your child's program starts, because you are the one that sees your child the most, knows your child the best, you can really help with the whole team approach of what to do and how to carry things through after the therapists are gone and so on. So I highly recommend you do that. Yeah. Those trainings are so inexpensive that they're very affordable. I think some of them, I don't know how many modules are up for parents right now. You can even feel free to go through, the professional modules as well. They're open to everyone. And I think modules are something like $9
it's
or
less than
$10.
Some that are $7.50.
Yeah. So I mean, that's nothing, and you have the module and you can go through it, and it really does. This is my training team, and let me tell you, these guys are senior. They've been in the field for close to 20 years, a lot of the girls that are in the training group, and they are just fabulous people.
It is amazing. And I have to say, too, very early on it was said to me that your team is only as strong, your program is only as strong as the weakest member on your team. And do you want to be the weakest member on your team? And I'll tell you what, that lit a fire under me. I was like, I will not be the weakest member on my son's team.
That's a great saying. That's a great saying.
It was said to me by a Cardian person, really? And I went, all right, well, that will not be me.
And I have to tell you, Shannon, that's an amazing, because when you talk about IBT, there isn't a weak link in there. These guys are amazing. Yes. And I am like constantly trying to scheme of ways to steal a couple of them back to CARD. They're the best. They are the best. So you'll really enjoy it. And so they're very good presenters too. Yes. You'll see a lot of presentations by Jennifer, and she's spectacular.
Oh, she's amazing.
She's spectacular. They're all very good. They're all very good.
The majority of them were filmed in this studio,
yeah.
And I would be outside working on the computer, and I would have to leave to go pick up Jem, and I would notice that I had stopped working, and I would move closer to the speaker, and I would start taking notes, and I would have to leave, and I would stand by the door, and Emily would say, you need to go pick up your child, which I'm always in a hurry to go pick him up, but I hated to leave because they're that good.
They're so good. That would be very helpful to the parents who are waiting.
Yes.
Second thing is, if you are anxious, one of the things I really do recommend is, if you can afford to get a license for 1 month to Skills. So that's, I don't know the website for Skills. It's Skills for Autism?
Skillsforautism.com.
Skillsforautism.com. You will begin to answer 1 month subscription. I think is about $70 or $75.
I think it's $75.
Right, and then what you do is you will be able to. That'll be a jump start. You'll be able to kind of start answering a lot of the questions about your child. And when I say you need at least 2 weeks to do that, or maybe a week because your child's very young, but we're talking about very detailed questions, and it'll be important to answer these questions. So
you're going to have to answer them sooner or later, and if you get them done ahead of time, you're going to be ahead of the game. I agree.
Absolutely, and they're a little bit technical. I apologize for that, but we're very detail oriented. And if you don't understand these questions, those of you who are using Skills, just look at the examples. The examples are very helpful.
Every time it gives you a question, there's a little thing that says more info. You click it, and it words it in a way that you absolutely can understand it.
Right.
It doesn't automatically show it to you so that you don't have to worry about it if you get it the first time. But if you read through it once and you go, I don't know, click that, and it really makes it clear.
Much better, yeah. And then those are two things that'll really keep you busy, and they'll be very, very helpful. Now for you, and I know it's hard because your child is kind of not getting much right now, but honestly, if you get through IBT training, you'll start doing stuff with your child right now.
Absolutely.
And having said that, I don't want to forget to say 10 hours is not enough for your child. Right. You need to get that higher. You need to increase that. And finally, for the twin, well, I mean, both kids need to be evaluated, honestly. So I don't know who evaluated them. Possibly someone from Regional Center evaluated them at this point, but you should maybe make an appointment to come here. I think this family's in the Riverside area?
Riverside, as I recall.
Yeah, so you should probably make an appointment to come over to the Valley. It's a kind of a drive, but it'll be one time, and either I can see you, which I don't know how my schedule is, but either I can see you or our clinical director, Evelyn Kung, can see you, or one of the senior staff here. And then Dr. Garcia or someone from assessment center will be able to do some testing as well if necessary. But we will make sure that we're dealing with diagnosis as well as appropriate recommendations.
And then the only other part of the question that we haven't answered then is about what happens to the speech and the OT, which at 31 months, I'm so bad at math, that's not yet
less
than 3.
Right. So what I would say is I can't answer that question until I do an evaluation or see reports on the child. So some children benefit from both of those things, some benefit from one or the other, some don't need either one because ABA overrides it.
Yeah.
So we really need to just see the skills of your children.
But in terms of the funding of it, until in the state of California, until your child is 3, the regional center pays for the speech and the OT, and they will fund speech and OT on top of ABA. So know that one doesn't preclude the other. And once they turn 3, then the school district is on the hook for that. They're responsible, and they do. School districts are really happy to hand out speech and OT like they're chiclets, and that is something that you don't typically have to fight for from the school district.
And you will now most likely, when you wrote it, when this parent wrote in, it was a couple of months ago, I think, or a month ago maybe.
At least a month ago.
So we're talking child's maybe 32 months by now. Be very pushy during the next 4 months because you're going to want to try to get your approvals from regional center before your child turns 3. What might happen is that it's so close to 3 that things will get delayed and you won't get your funding, at which point everything you've done becomes sort of wasted time. If you do get your approvals, and it's likely you will get approvals because regional center knows that at 3 your child becomes more now eligible, let's say, for school district funding. And at that point it'll be easier if you have regional center funding, it'll transfer easier to school district funding than doing that whole thing all over again.
Oh, yeah.
So I really urge you to try to get the services as fast as you can. And of course, let's not forget you're in California, so we should be looking at your insurance funding.
Absolutely. Okay, great. And if you have more questions about that, please feel free to write in. I want to go to, on our Facebook, we have this new system now, and I'm trying to be as high-tech as I can possibly be.
That's nice.
It is nice. The initial question was, hi, Dr. Doreen, can you help children with autism across USA? Answer me, please, from Kenya. And I wrote back for clarification, are they looking to bring the child here or to go to Kenya? And he said, Dr. Doreen, he wrote, because I said that you do help children in the United States and you actually help them around the world, and could we be more specific? Are you looking for help in Kenya? He says, hi, doctor. Yes, I want the help. I live in some of the poor villages in Kenya. There are many children living with autism. I need your help through introducing Autism Hospital in poor villages. Can you start sending them autism materials? And there's a little bit of a language thing, so I'm paraphrasing slightly. But they said, nice time, doctor. I don't know whether that means that you'll have a good time if you come to Kenya. You go to Africa on a frequent basis, so I think...
I do. I love Africa. Yeah, we can help, for sure. We can do a number of things. We can, of course, we'd be happy to donate informational materials, training materials to you, so at no cost. We'd be very happy to mail things that your hospitals can distribute, and that's not a problem. The other thing we can do, though, is we actually do have an affiliate in South Africa, and there we have currently 1, 2, 3, 4 clinics or schools, and that's called STARS Academy. And you'll see that it says STARS Academy, an affiliate, card affiliate. And all the folks at STARS Academy are trained by us and overseen by us. And so South Africa to Kenya obviously would be an easier trek than for us. However, because they're an affiliate and they are growing themselves, you'd be not really getting, I mean, they can help, but we can help as well. And because we have 4, I think, supervisors flying to Africa Every month, so regularly. We have a lot of contact with South Africa, and we love to get into Kenya. We are actually getting into Ghana and Zimbabwe.
Wow.
So, and we're working with another family who wants to do affiliate sites in Ghana, which will be interesting to do. I would love to do that with other parents or families. Sounds like this individual I'd love to meet and talk to. The best way to move this forward is for you to contact Mr. John Galley, at CARD. He is director of our remote services, and these are considered remote services. So what you would do is contact CARD on our website, go to remote services. I don't even know if it's still called that or if it's called workshops.
I will forward this.
Great.
I will forward John's email to
info.
It's
terrific.
I love the name is Canisius. I love this name.
That's
it's a
great.
beautiful, beautiful name. So Canisius, I will forward to you John Galley's information, and I will also forward the conversation to John Galley. We were able
John
to
actually is in Africa right now.
Oh, is he?
So you might not get a response for about a week or so.
All right. Well, that's funny because just on Monday we forwarded to John. We had another person write in that they have started a school in Haiti and that they would like to be doing something. So we were able to forward that as well.
That's awesome. John
yes.
needs help.
Well, there you go.
I need to get him some help.
Yes, because we're sending in more and more requests. You guys write in and we'll forward that on. Awesome. Let's take one more short break and then we're going to come back and talk. We had two different requests we have two young adults that watch this show on almost a daily basis that have CP, and both of them are want to become autism therapists, and they've written in with some pretty interesting stuff for Dr. Granpeesheh. So we'll touch on those when we come back. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I had said before the break that we have two young men who watch our show on a regular basis that both are living with CP. Mike wrote in this morning. We've had Mike Hipple on the show before, and he has written a lovely children's book that we've shown on the show before about getting to school when you have a difference and using augmentative speech devices. Mike is a huge proponent of making sure that we put speech devices in a child's hand as early as possible because it made such a big difference for him. And Mike just graduated from high school. We're so excited for him. And he's starting college and very excited. He wrote in this morning and said, "Good morning. I'm a man with CP. I want to know if you could talk about being a starting out line therapist." And he wants me to remind everybody that because it's August, it's a great time to buy his children's book, which we've shared before on the show about starting school. But he specifically wrote a big thank you to you and to Dr. G for everything you are doing. Dr. G, and in big caps, he said, is my role model. And he wrote and said, thank you, your friend. That's
amazing.
Yes. And so any tips about starting out to be, I don't know what a line therapist is.
A therapist, basically, he's saying a frontline therapist, sort of a therapist that works directly with individuals. Where is he?
He is in Wisconsin.
Okay. Well, WEEP is there, the Wisconsin Early Autism project or program, I'm not sure, and that's Glenn Sallows.
Okay.
And you might want to contact them. I can find out if they have a training program, if they're hiring people. I'm not sure what their status is. I think John Galley, who we were talking about, mentioned to me that he wanted to open something in Wisconsin because there's a lot of need there, but we don't currently have services there. You could absolutely, in terms of training, of course, you could go on our IBT site.
And he has been doing IBT.
Yeah.
He loves IBT.
And if you go even further, I don't know if you've done all of them. They keep adding really advanced stuff now. I think they're just about to add 3 or 4 more supervisor level things.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But really, you could also contact IBT and talk to Cecilia, who's the director of IBT. They're now doing a lot of live trainings that they do state by state, like cities. And I don't know their exact schedule. It might be on the IBT site, but I know that they travel and train BCBAs and non-BCBAs, and they're just constantly doing that. So that might, that's the first thing. Secondly, in terms of actually, getting on the front lines, I would imagine that once you have the training, you're going to find so many organizations that want to hire you just because everyone is short of staff. So it's an open door in this field.
And I wonder too, because Mike, you're such a huge advocate for augmentative devices. I'm wondering too whether getting an email to maybe Andy Bondi and talking about PECs and partnering with some of that, or
Andy's. I don't know that Andy's all that involved anymore. I'm not sure, but I agree with you. There's a particular shortage. I feel we don't have enough, providers don't know enough about how wonderful AUG devices are. And I think AUG devices should be just so much more common. I mean, I still feel like, yesterday I was seeing a child and I had to convince the group, that, I'm sorry, his articulation is so far off that nobody can understand, and so I really still want to keep the AUG device. And people in general tend to be very hesitant about using augmentative devices or iPads even at this point, just because they feel like the child's making some verbal utterance, and if you use an augmentative device, their verbal utterance may stop. And that's absolutely not true. In fact, you can use the augmentative devices in order to increase verbalization, improve language, and so on. But while language functioning is improving, it isn't fair to individuals to not be able to communicate. It isn't right, and it's not fair, and the individual is not able to communicate, and they get frustrated. I mean, I can't even imagine, you know? So not using an augmentative device makes no sense to me. And the reason I'm saying all this is that there's a general shortage, I think, across the country of people who really understand these augmentative devices, how to program them, how to use them appropriately, how to teach disabled individuals to use them, and so on. And they are miracle workers, these devices. Once some of our kids benefit, just tremendous changes their lives.
Absolutely.
So if that's since that's something that you feel strongly about and you're connected to and understand very well, I would really suggest you go into that sort of specialty niche and try to use that. Every organization out there who understands the value of AUG devices would really be interested in hiring you for someone who can help program augmentative devices. So if you want to contact someone, I would contact the manufacturers of augmentative devices. What's the one that we use all the time? I forget the name of it.
The
Dynavox.
Okay.
So Dynavox, for instance, they are very involved in this field. So a lot of I like Dynavox. You might have a different preference. Contact
I think
those
Mike
folks.
uses a different one, but yeah, that'd be a good place to start. About very interesting.
The other thing, these companies obviously they're always looking for people to demonstrate, to sell, to demonstrate their product.
Right.
So these are the areas that you can enter.
Amazing areas. Okay, we're not going to take a break because I want to get to some of these questions.
Sure.
Hi, Dr. Doreen. What would be the best school placement for a 10-year-old with ASD, verbal enough to tell his parents and sometimes needs, and sometimes reciprocates greetings. Has difficulty attending to the teacher. Has trouble with adaptive skills such as using restroom. Has stims such as shouting, humming. Does not really like to read and write. Has okay imitation skills. Some general guidelines would be helpful. How many hours of home-based ABA is recommended? Again, he's 10. Should the school hours be kept to minimum? Should we target on inclusion now, or is it a distant dream? A friend who has a diploma in psychology said it is better that ASD kids attend special schools so that they do not have the stress of being around typical kids. Is this true? And thank you. It's a bunch of questions in there.
Sure, no problem. I think I might be able to cover them. Does it say where this family lives?
It does not say.
No. Okay, so the ideal situation, or what I would recommend, is not necessarily going to be helpful to you because I don't know what's available to you. So ideally, if I had a 10-year-old child who had the level of functioning that you just described, I would, in my perfect world, I would initially probably minimize school attendance. I would be looking at regular education school, by the way, and I would be looking at regular ed with an aide, full-time aide all the time. And I would really intensively work with the individual at home. So ideally, I would be doing something like 20 hours of intervention ABA at home and maybe 15 hours at school, some such thing.
But you're putting that through the filter of that a good ABA provider is available to do that home program, and a really good aide is there in the classroom, and the classroom teachers on board with them being included.
Absolutely, and you have funding, which gets harder and harder. I mean, there's a million non-realistic issues there.
But I appreciate that you're telling us what the ideal is, because if we don't know what, I think there are so many people in the autism community who don't even tell us the ideal because they think it's too high for us.
Settle. I don't want you to settle.
Right.
Yeah.
If you know, okay, that's what you in the ideal circumstances, that's what you would prescribe. Then you know when you're having to compromise where the compromise is.
Absolutely. And again, this goes back to what you and I always say at the beginning of the show, which is that we don't know any child well enough on this show to be able to make those types of prescriptions, right?
Yes.
So this is a very good case of that, because it really it kind of borders. It's like if your child is there's a lot of things that have to do with the child. So this is, I don't care that the child's 10.
Right.
Some of my 10-year-olds learn so rapidly, and they're so involved already. They're interested. They want to learn. They're paying attention. They're vocalizing, all those types of things that I can teach them, and that's the recommendation that I would make. If it's a child who's it's sort of like right on this side of the border or this side, if the child's still has a lot of untapped potential, then I really would do what I just recommended.
Okay.
If the child gets frustrated because there's too much pressure on them, if you really need to downsize the program a little bit, if you really need to make the environment a little bit less demanding for the child, which sometimes I need to do that because some of my 10-year-old kids are very overwhelmed, anxious. They start to get really stressed out, and that's not my point. But so then if it's a child who's not going to really benefit from a regular ed program, then I'd be looking at special ed, sure, but I would still do as much one-to-one intervention as possible. So really the answer to this depends on the key issues with your child.
Okay.
I start with always wanting to try regular education with an aide, because I think that a lot of our kids are capable of that, and that's the kind of the luxury model, let's say. And yeah, it's more expensive, it's harder to get, but the truth is, some of my kids do great. Some of my kids fit in really well. They're able to attend to the other kids. They need assistance. Yes. But you know what, what was it, self-care, adaptive skills? How easy it is to teach adaptive skills. That's not a very difficult thing to teach.
And you would do that in the home program?
You would do that in the home. So I would not recommend a regular education placement with an aide unless you had the ability to do a lot of intervention at home first and or during, because you don't have the opportunity to teach things like practicing how to go to the bathroom and so on. You don't have the ability to teach those things at school. You do have the ability to teach that stuff at home. Now, if your child has already gone through a lot of quality ABA and they still have difficulty with a lot of different basic skills, then yes, do look at special ed. There are good special ed programs for our kids, and you just need to make sure. I mean, honestly, here's the answer that I should have started out saying. It doesn't matter what the placement is, as long as the individuals working with your child are pushing your child and challenging your child, and then at the same time making sure the child has enough, help, prompts, support, and reward. So that's all. The email shows that you're very involved and really know your child very well. Observe the opportunities and the choices you have. Find those people. Forget about the label of the site. Find those people who are going to push your child slightly above every time. Reward him. Keep him happy. Teach him.
And
never give up on him. Document the progress. Never give up on him. Believe in him. And just keep growing, and people who know how to get him there, right? You might have the best people with good hearts, but they just don't know their stuff. Yeah. So that's really the answer. It could either way. You just need to make sure you find something that's appropriate in that sense.
I'm going to move on to this next question because I want to make sure we get to it. Hi, Dr. Doreen. I can't listen live, so I will try to be as specific as possible. And I think this is one of our iPad watchers, so make sure you subscribe so that this person can listen live. I have a 16-year-old daughter that is very much in need of proprioceptive, I hope I said that right, deep pressure. I can't do a lot of deep pressure with her as I have health issues of my own that are preventing me. Help with 2 exclamation marks. I'm afraid she will hurt me from needing the pressure, and it won't be in anger. It will definitely upset her if I was hurt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't, this is why often I think like Temple Grandin's machines should be out there. I don't know if you can purchase them, and I don't know how much they are, if you can purchase them, but that's why Temple made those machines for deep pressure. Deep pressure is hard. How old is the daughter? 16? Yeah. I mean, I would start by saying, and it's deep pressure. Massage tools that are like hardcore massage tools, like the ones that you hold. I have one, for instance, that is a massive device, and you actually have to hold it with 2 hands because it's so heavy. It's almost like a sanding machine, Okay. And a lot of our kids love that because it's so heavy and it's so strong, right? So that something like that would be, if you can teach her to use a massage device, that would be very helpful. But individuals who like deep pressure tend, and then like some of the things we do will not provide deep pressure, but will provide pressure, and it might be enough to help reduce her need for you to squeeze her. So those things are, for instance, weighted jackets or vests, things that are heavy and weighted. I just bought for one of my kids a massive beanbag where when he's 10, when he sits in the beanbag, it kind of engulfs him. And these beanbags are not really the material that's in beanbags. It's kind of what's in them is the same stuff that's in Tempur-Pedic beds. So they're pretty intense and heavy. Actually, that's another thing is actually finding a light mattress and teaching the child to wrap themselves up in or go under something that has weight, like a light mattress. Like, for instance, I know even with my kids, they love to go under Tempur-Pedic mattresses, which are pretty heavy, but they're soft and they love the pressure from them. Bathing, swimming, all of these types of things provide some sort of proprioceptive contact and pressure. Yeah. It's tough. It is very tough. And, of course, wherever you are, I don't know, sensory integration is supposed to be focusing on this as well.
Okay. All right. Absolutely wonderful. Emily, do we have time for one more, or are we done? Okay, one more. Well, it's kind of related. They want to know if acupressure helps our kids with ASD.
I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, acupressure is more like acupuncture. It's just pressure points or the meridian points rather than actual needles. I don't know. I don't know if there's been any research on this either. It's a very interesting question, though. I don't know. If you really generally believe in acupressure, I can't see why it wouldn't work.
Okay.
I do. I think acupressure does work on certain things, so I'm not sure what it would do for our kids, but I could imagine that it would perhaps help with things like reduction of anxiety, or I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't think there is any research on it. It's an interesting area.
Can I squeeze one more in, Emily? Okay, so because I had asked about this at the beginning of the show, we had a parent who wrote in who said that they're in a specific place in Iowa that I happen to be familiar with because I have family that lives there.
Yes.
But I don't know what the autism services are on the ground, and she said, I need some help. It was a grandmother who wrote in. I said, let me check and see. Of course, I go to the BACB.com, BACB.com, and find out that there is a BCBA very close by. Did a little bit of research to find out that they are a BCBA that has experience with autism. But my question is, as a parent, because I want to recommend this person, but I have no idea other than the fact that they are a BCBA and they have autism experience. So what questions would I tell this parent to ask to know the caliber of the BCBA you're working with?
Well, that's an awesome question. I'll do a quick answer to it, but
okay.
I need you to ask me that again next week.
Okay, great. I'll make a note of that.
That is a terrific question. I deal with that a lot.
Okay,
parents asking me this. So the quick answer is, so here are some things you can ask the BCBA. So, for instance, I have them explain to you what ABA is. Say, what do you think ABA is? Tell me about ABA, literally. And if they can fluently and comfortably explain it to you in language that makes sense to you, rather than responding in a bunch of technical gibberish, they have some level of maturity. That'll tell you that. The thing about ABA that's important, and this is not the only thing that they should describe the whole overview of what it is, but I'm saying that one of the things I find a lot of BCBAs, new BCBAs, don't understand is that there's two sides to ABA. One is reduction of challenging behaviors, and one is teaching. Okay, a lot of the guys that they'll get their BCBA learn the techniques for reduction of challenging behavior, but they don't learn how to teach. Okay, and there's a lot of techniques for teaching. They learn them separately, and they don't understand that these are all teaching techniques. Okay, I'm not talking about just like their techniques like shaping and chaining and blah 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 blah, but there's protocols too, like discrete trial training, fluency, pivotal response, etc., NET. These are all ABA types of protocols. So what I would do is I would have this BCBA, I would send the BCBA some information about my child, and then I would say, what would you do? Give me a program, me a sample program. Tell me what you would do with my child. And literally interview the person, because you can't, this is your child. Yes, it's one thing for a BCBA to come in and say, oh yeah, this is how you handle behaviors and you shouldn't be doing this, that, and the other thing. But honestly, as you reduce challenging behaviors, unless you're good at teaching, the challenging behaviors will come back in some other form, because challenging behaviors are just the child's frustration from lack of communication. So if you're not able to teach the child different ways to communicate better, they're still going to be frustrated.
Makes sense.
So these are the things that I think are important. But actually, this is such a great question that I think we should really dedicate a lot more time to it.
Okay. That's going to be the beginning of next week's well, we're not doing a show next week, the week after.
Okay, great.
So, wonderful. Well, we'll make sure that they get a chance to watch that. But that tells me a lot right there that I wouldn't have known. I would not have known that they're, that they aren't as schooled sometimes.
They don't. It's only CARD that does both sides. It's only CARD that, well, I can't say that because we've trained a million people now over the years who work in other places, but it's our whole philosophy that these two things have to go hand in hand.
And of course,
another quick thing is you want to make sure your BCBA is not closed-minded to other types of interventions, dietary, medical, all of these types of things. There are BCBAs out there who think it's illegal or unethical to do anything else.
We've heard of BCBAs who won't take you if you're doing a dietary intervention.
Yeah. People have reported me for suggesting to families to get medical help as well.
That's shocking.
I know,
and non-productive.
It really is
disappointing. But we are out of time now. We've gone over time. But I thank you so much. This has been so informative. And keep your questions coming in. We of course didn't get through all of them, but we got through a lot, and we'll continue to get through them. There won't be an Ask Dr. Doreen next week. I've mentioned before that we're letting Emily have a couple of days off. We don't often do that. We don't let her out, but we are. But so we'll be back with Ask Dr. Doreen in 2 weeks. We're going to pause right now and take a look at the A Word, the ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. At this point in the series, Jack Riley is 3. He's got a new baby sister, so he's a big brother. And we're seeing some of the desensitization that they're doing with food for him, because previously, if you showed him a banana, the child would burst into tears, and they don't want him to be held back by that, so they're moving very slowly, and we see some of the really fun ways that they're introducing food in a non-threatening way for Jack Riley. So take a look at the A Word, and afterwards we'll be back with Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. This is the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Let's go with Mrs.
That's a great idea.
Let's really build first.
Okay, what would you like to build?
Let's build a building.
Okay. Right now, Jessica and Jack Riley are doing constructive play with Legos. What it does is teach a child how to imitate others and construct items out of their imagination.
I need a window. Where's my window?
Jack Riley is building things from his own mind, things that he's been taught before and he's recalling on his own.
Another one.
What is that supposed to be? Is it a camera or glasses, or what is it?
Camera.
It's a camera, a special camera.
Here's my camera. Click, click.
Woo! That's so cool. I also wanted to do functional pretend play too. So with the kitchen set, to see how his conversation skills are. I haven't actually done that in the past couple weeks. What we're really focusing on for that is not just the actions of having him imitate, but rather the narration of it, so that it's more appropriate. Like he can narrate what and tell us what he's doing in relation to what he's playing with, instead of us just modeling it for him. So we'll see.
What do you want to eat?
Can I have corn on the cob and some turkey? Careful, it's hot.
Oh, it's hot.
Blow on it.
Blow on it.
Okay, it looks delicious.
I want to eat anything else.
Yeah, I want dessert now. Oh, here, give it to her. Here's your dessert, Suzanne.
We need some more fruit. Here's a fruit.
Oh, thank you. That looks delicious. I can't wait to eat it.
It's cold.
It's cold? Oh, good. Don't have to blow on it. Nom, 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 nom. Do you like it?
Do you like it?
I love it. Thank you. It's a perfect call for a dessert. Nom, 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 nom. Would you like to have some of my fruit that you gave me?
Yes.
Which one would you like to have? Oh, the orange. Delicious.
How did it taste?
Look at her. How'd it taste?
It's good.
It's good?
I'm eating.
I know. This is delicious.
Banana. Banana. Here's your banana.
Thank you for the banana.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. So thrilled to be here. We were talking about you during the show. Your name came up.
Oh, really?
Yes, because Dr. Granpeesheh was talking about what an amazing woman you are.
Oh, well,
and
that's
I said I concur.
Oh, she's great.
So I always like to tell people when people are saying nice things behind your back.
I love that. And it's a mutual love fest. You know, I feel the same way about both of you.
Well, it's a wonderful thing. Wednesdays are just so joyous because first I get to spend an hour with her, and then I get to spend an hour with you.
And we didn't really get a chance to catch up.
No.
I know last week when I was here, I was having some challenging behaviors with my son. Yes. I have been. And, you know, somehow we got away easy with the whole potty training thing, which not a lot of parents with children with autism get away easy with that phase. You know, it's a big challenge for a lot of our families.
Yeah.
Well, we had smooth sailing through that, which I was like, oh, wow, this is great. Now we're having problems. And a lot of it is because Wyatt's constipated. And so he's doing things, he's touching himself, and then, you know, it's having, you know, getting on walls and things. And so we're working on that. We've also been having some problems with a little bit of aggression showing up again, with him wanting to scratch me. And it stems from when we try to control his biggest stem, which is playing with water. And so because he's under a lot of pressure this summer doing a lot of ABA, and he's doing a Linda Mood Bell comprehensive learning program, we've decided not to, the therapy team has decided not to push him as hard on the stemming. But the problem is, if you don't curtail it, it leads to more of the same activity. So the challenges continue. So I just want to let you parents know I'm right there with you on this challenge. You know, and he's 11, going to be 12 in November, so there's some pre-puberty stuff, some puberty stuff coming up. So, you know, our friend Lisa Ackerman, actually, I was supposed to call her yesterday because she said, I'll help you with the puberty stuff, because she's gone through it with her son, Lisa Ackerman from Taka. And so I'm going to give her a call and see what she has to say, too. But, you know, I'm just trying to get as much information as I can. And we're also changing... you know, we had him on Lexapro, and we're probably taking him off that, titrating it down, because it doesn't seem to be helping his anxiety.
Well, and it's always something, you know, I mean, we all have different battles that we're fighting, and we've had our own little stuff going on at home.
What have you had going on?
Well, it's something that we're actually going to be talking about
today. I saw this story and said,
and I'm sure you thought of me, I think.
Did.
And I went, yes.
Do you want to talk about it now?
Well, we certainly can.
I mean, it's one of our in the news stories.
Yes, it is one of
our,
why don't we
talk about it now?
Because I think it is something that a lot of us are dealing with. The fact that our boys who are on the spectrum, some of them are really into computers and gaming, and that it can get to be a problem. And I had a discussion with a really great autism mom the other day, and we were talking about our boys, and she said, well, we don't subscribe to the internet, and we don't have cable, and we don't, and all these things, and I had a kind of moment.
I'm having that right now.
Right? And I went home, and I was trying to have a conversation with my son, and there was no, you know, back and forth at all. And I stopped everything, and I said, hey, you know, I was talking to this mom who has a son on the spectrum, and they don't let him play computer games. They don't let him play video games. They don't let him watch cable TV, and there's no internet. And maybe we should do that, because I feel like I lost you once to autism, and now I'm losing you to video games. And I'm not going to be a bad parent and lose you to something and fight to get you back to lose you to something as ridiculous as that. So what do you think we should do? I put it to him and said, what, because I was, you know, and late last night, he said, let me think about it, right?
Really?
Which is often what he does when he just wants me to go away.
Right. Wyatt does that, too. We'll talk about it later.
Can we talk about this later? I want to think about it.
Later,
what Jem has learned is very effective, because I go, yes, you should take the opportunity to think about it. He goes, escape, cha-ching. So I brought it up again last night, and he proposed an interesting thing. And I said, all right, we're going to try this for a week, and I'll be interested to see what happens. And we can talk about that later. But let's talk about this new study. This is a study, right?
Yeah, it's a study that boys with autism are spending significantly more time playing video games than they're typically developing peers, and are a higher risk for gaming to be problematic or addictive. On a daily basis, boys with autism are spending more than 2 hours playing video games. 2 hours. That's nearly twice the playing time clocked by their typically developing peers. This was in Pediatrics, the journal Pediatrics. They surveyed the parents of the boys 8 to 18, 56 with autism, 44 with ADHD, 41 with no diagnosis. And the problematic and addictive video game use was much more prevalent among autism and ADHD. And they're saying that this results that they're at a particularly high risk. It's something that parents need to be look out for the addiction. And the other thing that to me is the biggest problem is role-playing games appear to be related to problematic behavior among children too. So when they see some of these games, if some of them are violent, they are replicating some of that behavior. That to me is the number one concern, in addition to our kids checking out. But if they're watching games that the content is not, I mean, my son still watches Thomas the Tank Engine on the internet. I mean, he's kind of still addicted. He has a really hard time letting go of things. And so he secretly goes to that. I don't think he's going to learn anything bad from Thomas the Tank Engine. It may keep him from being with his other 11-year-olds. They're certainly not doing it. But I would rather him be watching that than some sort of Mortal Kombat or something. I don't know what these things are called.
Well, I mean, I know what Mortal Kombat is. My husband does one of the voices in it, but we don't allow my son to watch that. That's not ever allowed when my son is there. But I got to be honest, is that, the things that my son does play, which are supposed to be okay for our kids, if I sit there and watch when he's doing it with him, I go, this is not okay.
Not okay. And
I'm talking about things like Little Big Planet. There are some things in Minecraft that I think are not okay. There's a Roblox game that he plays that I put the kibosh on twice, and I've been talked back into it with restraints and filters, and I'm putting the kibosh on it again.
Okay.
But and I feel myself getting defensive and going,
We all don't get defensive because
but when I read this, I go, and then I go, but why are you being defensive about that? Because this is the neighborhood that my son is in. If you allowed him to, my son would play for 8 hours at a stretch.
Okay.
If you allowed him to.
Yeah, well, Wyatt's addicted to Wii and NASCAR and is very inflexible about not doing it at a certain time every night before bed. Okay. And I'm like, well, let's get some other games in here, not just the NASCAR, but hey, maybe the NASCAR's not so bad. But in addition, there's just two major concerns, and it does in my mind bring me back to the horrific school shooting. And we have not heard much about that since, of course, in our culture, there is a tragedy, and it's all you hear. You're inundated with it. And Adam, the boy who, they said was on the spectrum, was a video game addict and a violent video game addict. And it didn't surprise me to learn that he might be on the spectrum and maybe not getting the help he needed. And it also, Adam Lanza, yes. And it also didn't surprise me, a lot of people got very defensive at that point in time saying, well, kids with Asperger's aren't violent. But kids with Asperger's and children with autism are more susceptible to getting addicted to a topic, a subject, and replicating behaviors.
Well, exactly. And, it brings home the point that a lot of times we're worried when our kids are little that they're not teachable. But we know for a fact that our kids are teachable, and we just have to be careful what we're teaching them.
Yeah.
And in that particular individual's home, the mom was taking him to gun ranges. So it was being supported by what was happening in the video games. And I say this, and my husband works in that industry and does those voiceovers.
Okay.
But, even he is adamant about the fact that there are people that there are age ranges on those, and parents need to pay attention to them, and you need to make sure, not just limit the access, but make sure that kids don't have access to things. If it's not something you would teach in your home, then you shouldn't allow them. And I hear myself saying that and going, I got to pull back on some of the things that he's doing.
All right,
I gotta walk my talk.
Good. We got, it's hard. And
it is hard.
I think you know, we're in this struggle every day too. That's what I think is really important for everybody that watches Autism Live and watches this show, is that with both of us having sons on the spectrum, we are facing these challenges, and I like sharing it with our viewers because, you know, maybe they have some advice on this.
Absolutely.
And I also think it's very important for us all to be aware of this study, because it is something that I think we can look at and go, oh yeah, well, we know this situation.
Yeah, we got to be mindful.
Yeah,
we have to be mindful.
And then there's another study that came out, and that is on siblings impacted by disabilities, which also, not surprising, siblings of children with disabilities are more likely than those with typically developing brothers or sisters to struggle with relationships, schoolwork, behavior, and leisure time. A new study suggests it's the largest of its kind to date. They looked at responses from parents of 245 children whose siblings had disabilities, compared to feedback of 6,564 children with only typically developing siblings, and they were considered to be disabled if they were limited or unable to do things that children their age typically could. So the parents of children with disabilities reported that their typically developing sons and daughters were more likely to feel sad, nervous, or afraid. They also cited more problems with behavior relating to adults or kids, completing schoolwork, participating in recreational activities. And this also was in the Journal of Pediatrics. And what's more, siblings of those with disabilities had higher levels of significant functional impairment than those with only typically developing. Mental health services can often be needed. It's something that, again, we need to be aware of, and this is something that clearly I can speak to, because growing up with a brother with Down syndrome who was profoundly affected, it really was about at a 3-year-old level for his life until he died at the age of 38. And I do believe that as a teen, I was significantly affected by my younger brother having Down syndrome. Of course, my mother had a problem, was an alcoholic, a drinking problem. She was an alcoholic. So between those two situations, I was profoundly affected. And my way of dealing with it was that I was so afraid of being rejected by people, because I felt like, and at the time, you know, retard was sort of the word that kids would throw at each other and apparently still do.
Yes.
Let's talk about that too.
Yeah.
Rappers.
Exactly.
J. Cole and Drake, apparently.
Although they have apologized.
I know, but still.
And yes, it is completely inappropriate.
I mean,
but they
retard, really?
Well, and you know, I mean, and you know what they were saying about autism as well.
You know, we'll get back to this, but
yes,
you know.
We'll come back to it. I mean, because we have covered this on the show, and they have apologized, and I feel like their apology was sincere. But let's come back to that.
So anyway, I did have that word thrown at me. Your brother is a retard, by a very mean person once, and I'll never get over it. It's, you know, when you are a child and you feel safe in the world, and then somebody attacks you like that, your family, it just makes you feel so vulnerable, so unsafe. So my reaction to it as a teenager was to hang out with the rebels, the troublemakers, the druggies, the rock and rollers. I did not hang out with anybody at my high school. I was known as, you know, a rebel. I mean, I was a troublemaker, and I had a best friend who also had things going on at home, and we definitely got into trouble in our teens, and I experimented with drugs and all kinds of things, looking for love in all the wrong places, and luckily I got through that. Luckily I did not overdose on drugs, or I did not end up in real trouble. I righted myself at some point. But I feel for these kids. Yeah. And I told you about when we had the inclusion film camp for military children. And there was a boy in the camp named Michael. He was a twin. And the twin sister, I noticed when I was interviewing her mother, was kind of tearing up. And I spoke with her, and I took her in my arms, and she said, I love Michael, and I just want him to be happy. And I could just see that pain and that vulnerability, and I could so relate to it. Yeah. Because I told her, I said, I've been you.
Yeah.
You know, I know what this feels like, and you're okay, and you're a great sister, you know. And so my heart goes out. We have only children, you and I, but a lot of you out there, you know, so it's probably worth the time to sit and talk to the siblings, find out how they're doing, check in with them frequently, see if there are any concerns going on, and be really aware of how they're feeling and dealing with having a sibling with autism.
I have to say that, you know, we get the opportunity to meet a lot of families who have lots of different stories. And whenever I meet families that there's multiple children, you know, I ask them about how do you deal with the sibling situation. And they all have different things. But some of the ones that really stand out to me, Shelley Hendricks, who is the head of the grassroots portion of Autism Votes, has a remarkable daughter who is an awesome sibling. And I asked her recently, I said, so, you know, how did you do that? And she said, I make sure to find time just for her, that it's just about her. And just the other day at Saddle Up, we met an amazing mom who's got twins. The young boy is on the spectrum, and the twin sister is not. And we got to interview her. We'll be sharing that interview soon. She's 9.
Okay.
And we interviewed her about being a sibling, as cute as she could possibly be, and she talked about what it was like. And the mom said, I make sure that we do things that are just about her. There has to be time in the schedule that it's just about her. Because otherwise, you know, it's easy to get lost in the mix.
It sure is.
It's a tough, tough road.
Yeah. And when you feel neglected, if you're not going to be your child's leader, somebody else will be. Think about that. Somebody said that once to me. If you're not going to be the compass by which your child navigates the world in terms of morality and, you know, direction and doing the right thing, someone else will. There are lots of people ready, and people without good intentions that are ready to jump in there and take control of your kid.
Absolutely. Good words. We should take a break.
Yeah, we'll come back with a couple more in the news.
Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman, Executive Director of TACA. We're gonna bake again.
All right.
It's my lovely assistant.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lucero.
We heard so many people go, I want a decent chocolate chip cookie for my kid to eat. We've got all our dry ingredients. So I've got the flour, I've got the flaxseed meal, baking soda, baking powder, our gum, or xanthan gum.
Great.
So we're gonna get started in the mixer here. So there's our dry ingredients. I do have brown sugar. We did cut this down. And the one way to do that is my favorite, and that's maple syrup. I'm using egg for this recipe, but we could use more arrowroot and also the flaxseed meal. So I'll go ahead and throw my eggs in here, which I love doing. So, and then the last thing is a shortening and gluten-free casein-free butter replacement. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. I've let it sit out for a while so it's nice and soft. So let's go ahead and mix this thing well. These are dairy-free, soy-free, and I really like them. Again, Enjoy Life is a great product. It's also net-free. And chocolate chips are a personal thing. I won't judge you if you use the whole bag.
I would.
I know, right? So here we go. Great recipe. It's the nice consistency. Everything's ready to go, so we can enjoy our cookies here in just about 10 minutes. We want to give it a kind of like a couple inches between each cookie. You know, a lot of people are really concerned about aluminum, so what I've done is I laid down my natural brown parchment paper, and Jen's helping out putting the cookies down. So we're separating the nice baked good that's all organic from the aluminum cookie sheets. So let's go put these in. So magic oven allows me to pull the last ones out. And voila.
Yum, that's good.
Really great cookies. I'll let you have a bite so you can do my Vanna White there too. Yeah, these taste pretty good.
Really good.
We're going to come back later after I gain 5 pounds and eat this entire tray.
For sure.
You know, more feedback is good. So if there's something you want us to convert, like another recipe or maybe a relative made, just let us know. autismlive@gmail.com. You can go to Facebook, or there's thousands of recipes on the TACA website just waiting for you to explore. You can go to TACANOW, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time at Autism Live.
Bye.
We say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live, and let's talk autism with Shannon and Nancy. So thrilled to be here with you.
Me too.
And we had more in the news to cover.
Yeah, we had two stories that you don't, a lot of these stories come up, you hear about them, they don't necessarily get national attention. But it's interesting to me what does get national attention and what does get seized on and what doesn't. And I think that two of these stories, tragedies really, that caught our eye just speaks to so many needs in our autism and special needs community in terms of safety. One happened in Long Island, and a 29-year-old man at a special needs facility on Long Island died after police shot him with a stun gun when he fought them as they tried to take him to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. It was the Mary Haven Center of Hope in Middle Island, and they called police to say that he had gotten violent and uncontrollable, and when they tried to get him to the hospital, they used a stun gun and pepper spray, and he became unresponsive and died. And multiple police officers were treated for injuries they sustained during the struggle. I mean, wow. This young man, 29 years old, was that violent that the restraints and the way that they dealt with it resulted in his death is shocking. But is it any wonder that we as parents of children with autism worry ourselves to death over what's going to happen to our kids when these stories come out?
Yeah. I mean, it's so frightening on so many different levels. When you think about, I would hope, when you have a place like this, the Mary Haven Center of Hope, right? And you have to think that there have been many people who have had to make the devastating decision to have somebody else step in and take care of their child because they can't. And you send them to a place with that kind of a name, you would hope that they could deal with whatever comes up. Mm-hmm. And we put a certain amount of faith in our police officers. And by the way, no judgment on anybody. I just am dismayed at the fact that I believe that there is training that these people could get.
Well, we saw, as Emily Island was here, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
It was 2 weeks ago that she was here.
And she has her video, Be Safe,
the movie, which we're going to be talking more about because, and you had forwarded this to me and said, this is why this is so important.
This is why we need Be Safe. Yeah. This is why every law enforcement agency in the country needs to be trained to do this. Now, if they can tranquilize a bear, if they can tranquilize a mountain lion, why couldn't they have tranquilized this individual?
Yeah. And we see this come up time and time again. The case last year with the first grader with autism, that the teacher and the entire class decided to hide in a closet, and they called police, and the police had to take a first grader out because he was engaging in challenging behavior. And you go, okay, what's wrong with this picture? We know that there are techniques of dealing with challenging behavior so people don't get hurt. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of making sure that enough of the right people get trained in it.
That's right.
And we'll spend the rest of our lives making sure that they do. But in the meantime, we have these devastating stories. And I cannot help but feel that this didn't have to happen.
Yeah, a second story along those lines, in Arlington, Texas, a special needs man died Thursday, this was last week, after being left in a hot SUV belonging to his group home. Mm-hmm. Around 9 a.m., he was the man believed to be in his late 20s, once again. Two others were driven by a group home employee to a day camp. And at some point, two of the three were dropped off, and the employee drove back to the home, and she the employee told the police she was unaware the man was still in the vehicle. And around 3 p.m., another employee got into the SUV, started to back out of the driveway, looked in the mirror and saw the man in the back, the special needs man in the back. He stopped the vehicle, checked on him. He was unresponsive. The police came and pronounced him dead on the scene. Once again, how?
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? There's supposed to be checks and balances. I mean, I've worked at facilities before. As an educator, I worked at a place where we dealt with a population that, was very varied. And as an educator, I could take people on field trips and go places. There has to be a check-in, check-out policy. And wherever you take them, there's a check-in, check-out. That's just commonplace in that kind of a facility, because when you take them with you, they are your responsibility. And until someone else takes over that responsibility, it's yours. And so things like this, people, I don't know whether they just didn't have a system in place or it fell between the crack, but these are people.
These are people. These are people with parents, with family, with people that love and care about them. And it just, once again, it points out the need for training for the police. It points out the need for training for employees, proper training, safeguards. And it also, that's in the short term. And in the long term, it points out the concern, the valid concern of every parent alive who has a child with special needs that says, what's going to happen after I die? And what are the states and what is the nation, the autism nation, going to do to take care of these children who, when they become adults? Because right now, we don't have a good enough plan.
No, we don't have a good enough plan. And it's frightening. It is, as you said, we worry ourselves to death, literally, over things like this. It's tragic, absolutely tragic.
So we call on all the lawmakers, and we call on all the leaders.
Yeah, I call on the administrators. The police administrators, the administrators of these facilities, take some responsibility. If your people aren't trained, it's on you. It's not on them, it's on you. You need to buy a vowel and get some training. And if you need to know where to get the training, we've got training available in lots of different formats. Get the training. Yeah, it's probably going to cost you a little bit of money, but you know what?
Want a tragedy like this in your hands?
The lawsuit that ensues when you have negligence and then live with it? No, get the training.
Yeah. So our heart goes out to the families of both of these men, these young men who died far too early and unnecessarily, needlessly. All right, so now we've had our soapbox moment, and
important. We have one of those every.
I know.
We have a wonderful guest who's going to join us in the next segment.
We got a fun thing coming up this weekend. I'm going the Ride for Autism.
I am chartreuse with envy because I've not been able to come to this event.
It's going to be so fun. We're going to have lots of bikers, and I mean bikers.
That would be very fun.
Yeah, not cyclist bikers, but motorcyclists.
And some fast motorcycles too.
Yeah.
So Anthony De La Rosa will be joining us via Skype. We're going to take a break and come back and talk about the Ride for Autism. Stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back. For the month of July, I figured we're going to do something again that's more for outdoorsiness since it's summertime and I know your kids are going to be home and you need some activities to do inside and outside. So for July, I figured we'd make a lantern. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are wax paper, an iron, crayons, scissors, popsicle sticks, pencil sharpener, a glue gun, and tape. What I did first is that I have my iron heating on medium heat, okay? Make sure you keep this far away from your child because I don't want them to get hurt. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to take my wax paper and I'm going to make 4 sheets. I'm going to cut out a thing that's about 12 inches long, okay? Now that I have my wax papers cut out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my crayon, and if you have kids around, which I hope you do, I'm going to grab them and have them make some crayon shavings. What the shavings are going to end up doing is making it a design. And again, this is another time for you and your child to talk about colors. You can discuss like what would happen if you mix, some blue crayons and some yellow crayons. What would that produce? When when you and your child have finally decided there's enough crayon shavings on your wax paper, what you're going to do next is you're going to take it and fold it in half. Now that I have it folded in half, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an old newspaper and then I'm going to sandwich it in between. And then with my iron on medium heat, I'm just going to have it gently on there just so the wax melts into the paper and becomes one thing. Let's take a peek inside. And as you can see, all the crayons have melted into it, making this beautiful kind of like rainbow-ish color. All right, now I'm going to do this with the other 3 that I've made, and then we're going to assemble our beautiful lantern. All right? So here are my 4 finished panels that I'm ready to build into the lantern. So what I'm going to do is I have these popsicle sticks, and I'm going to build them into a square and glue them together with my hot glue gun. While you're building your lantern, it's a good opportunity to work on math skills with your child. You could discuss how many sides does a square have versus how many sides does a cube have. Okay, I'm going to do this another 3 more times, so I have one for every single side. All right, well, now that I have these 4 different sides built, I am now going to take these wax paper things that I built, and then I'm going to put glue on here and smash it on there, okay? I know the wax paper is way too big for it, but what we're going to do later is trim it. All right, so now they're all done being glued together. Now I'm going to take my scissors and trim along the outside. Now that the 4 sides are done, I'm going to take some tape and I'm going to line the edge of it so they will stay together to make my cube form. And voila, here's my lantern, but it's missing something. You're right, it's missing a light to illuminate it. So what I'm going to put in here is an LED light. I'm definitely not going to put a real candle or else this thing's going to catch on fire, and that is a real safety hazard, okay? So here's my little guy, and I'm going to turn it on and let's see what happens.
Ooh, look at that. Isn't that pretty nice? And it's not even dark yet.
I would love if you shared your pictures of your finished crafts. But until then, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And I am very happy to welcome our next guest, Anthony De La Rosa. Is that correct, Anthony?
Yes, it's Anthony De La Rosa. That's fine.
Okay, I see Anthony there. And Anthony is the co-founder of the Ride for Autism, which Act Today is one of the beneficiaries this year, Shannon, which we're thrilled about that because we got to get out more grants to more families, and you're helping us do that by picking us as one of the beneficiaries. And Anthony, just tell us basically what the Ride for Autism is.
Well, the Ride for Autism, the event, is actually a motorcycle ride to raise funds and awareness for all our beneficiaries. The ride usually starts at Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson in Baldwin Park and travels to multiple. Well, we like to move the end site around in Southern California. So we've had end sites or finished sites at Orange County, Long Beach. This year it's at Sagebrush Cantina in Calabasas.
And that is right across the freeway from where I live, Anthony. So I'm going to be seeing you there. I can't wait. And, you know, the Sagebrush is quite a hangout for the biker crowd anyway.
That's right. It's a big biker hangout, and everybody just loves the place.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know how this came about. Yeah. How did this event start, and how long have you been doing it?
Well, we've been doing motorcycle rides to benefit different autism-related organizations for 8 years now. But we finally decided to do things on our own, create our own 501c3 6 years ago. So it's the 6th annual Ride for Autism. I'm a parent of a child that was diagnosed with autism when she was 3. Mm-hmm. She's 16 now, and she's received a lot of services from different organizations similar to yours. Mm-hmm. And we just thought it was time to give back. Now, at the time, my wife was very involved with the Autism Walk. Mm-hmm. Yes. And because we both like to ride motorcycles, so we got together and met a few other people with similar hobbies, motorcycle riding, and we decided, well, why not make a Ride for Autism? And that's how it all started. We just put 2 things that we love to do together.
How
we
great.
Like to raise funds. Yeah, we like to raise funds for autism, and we like to ride our motorcycles.
What a great, you turned, as we always say here, turning a disability into an opportunity to help others is just what it's all about.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that there are multiple organizations that you've been able to help. Who are some of the organizations that you've been able to work with?
Well, including yours, we've helped Autism Speaks a few years, Talk About Curing Autism. There's the Autism Society, which is for the greater Long Beach and San Gabriel Valley. Organizations like Surfers Healing, the A-Skate Foundation. This year we also have Three Little Words Foundation out of the Inland Empire. And Heart of Sailing Foundation. They're great, just like Surfers Healing. Wonderful. So these are just some of the organizations we've helped in the last 6 years.
You know, they're all great organizations. Shannon and I are aware of all of them. We have friends at all of them. We're very supportive. We're the UN. ACT Today believes in the UN model of all of us working together to help our kids. Tell us about how people can get involved. You're still accepting riders for this event, right?
Yes, as a matter of fact. You know, let me tell you just a little story here, a sidebar.
Okay.
Up until about 2 weeks ago, we were sort of concerned because we were not seeing the number of pre-registrations come across. But all of a sudden, in the last 2 weeks, you know, people just started signing up like crazy, you know. And so now we are approaching the 200 rider mark, at least pre-registered. And usually that's a good indicator of how many people we can expect on the day of the event. So right now, if my calculations are correct, we're tracking about, give or take 350, 400 riders. That's not including passengers and party only.
That's got to be quite a sight, Anthony, to see all of these bikers, you know, motoring from one, point A to point B to the final destination at the Sagebrush. It's got to be very inspiring to see that.
It's incredible, you know, because let me tell you, 2 years ago we had 675 motorcycles. I tell you, our freeway tail was probably 2 miles long because we caravan, 2x2. But interestingly enough, we're led by some rigs, some semis. They opened the way for us, and this year we're lucky enough to have 3 semis lead the way for all the motorcycle riders once again. And it's an escorted ride, so everybody can feel safe.
It sounds so great. I wish I had a motorcycle. I made my husband sell his Harley.
But people can still sign up to ride if they want to ride.
Yeah, tell us how they can sign up.
Well, online registration will remain open until Friday by popular demand. We received a lot of emails asking us to please extend online registration. Originally, the plan was to close online registration on the 31st at midnight to give us time to tally up, the participants and then prepare their goodie bags and everything that they get. Mm-hmm. But we've got a number of emails asking us to extend it, so we did. Online registration will remain open until Friday. So people can still pre-register at www.rideforautism.org and just click on the tab that says 2013 registration and, take it from there.
And what about for people who don't ride? I'm not somebody that's ever going to be adept enough to ride a motorcycle. Can I still participate in the event?
Absolutely.
And how would I do that?
You don't have to ride a motorcycle to participate. You can register as a party-only participant, and you can check in at about 11 a.m. at Sagebrush Cantina and watch all the riders come in and feel the thrill of the event and, have fun with us at the after-ride party. There's food. There are great bands playing. There's lots of raffles and giveaways and all that good stuff.
Awesome.
Well, I will see you on Saturday. I'll be one of the participants. I'll be drinking a margarita for you, my friend, and eating some chips and salsa, and meeting some of these great bikers out there. And I just think what you do, Anthony, is so wonderful. Thank you again for including ACT Today, because I know we're going to be able to make many more grants possible because of your generosity. And I will see you on Saturday, and best of luck to you in getting more participants and for this to be a really successful event.
Thank you very much for having me. Take lots of pictures, okay?
Okay, I will.
Thanks, Anthony.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back to finish out the show with some really cool events that are coming up here locally in Southern California. And if you have events that you want us to share that aren't for Southern California, make sure that you send them out to us. Emily's starting to include them on our Facebook page.
Right.
So make sure that you're letting us know so we can promote your events as well. But stick with us, right? We're back after these messages.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but you know, we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT.
What did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, you know, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, they wouldn't be able to receive a service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism, and we have a couple of fun events coming up besides the Ride for Autism, which is
Saturday.
This weekend. Saturday.
And then on
for you
Sunday,
in the Valley, you can come to Sagebrush with. I'll be there.
Yes.
I can have a margarita with you. Okay, virgin if you're, if you don't drink until 6. But
well, and since we're talking about events tonight, my son and I are both going to be at the open house at the new card office at Thousand Oaks.
Okay.
We'll be there, and if you want to come, bring Wyatt. We can make a thing out of it.
I'm thinking maybe we should head out there too.
That would be really fun, and so you could have an opportunity to meet us all there. But also this Sunday, there is a TACA event. We talk about TACA all the time, and the wonderful Lisa Ackerman. The Southern California Beach Day. It's August 4th, this Sunday at 11 a.m. The location is Zuma Beach. It's Tower 5 in Malibu, California.
Tower 5, easy to find.
Starts at 11 o'clock, and TACA will be providing light snacks and water. There is an $8 charge for parking, or you can park on the street for free on Pacific Coast Highway. What a wonderful event to go to. I mean, there's a possibility you can park on the street, go for free, meet with some other families, have a day at the beach. Again, that's Zuma Beach, Tower 5, Malibu, California. And then there's an autism conference that's coming up in Pasadena.
The Autism Conference, Back to School and More. And they're going to have Temple Grandin is going to be speaking, Lori Insberger, and over 20 other great speakers. They're going to have Dr. Dan Rossignol, Dr. Bradstreet, Jeff Bradstreet. There's a biomedical track, education, speech, social, family, teen, adult. Great conference. So that is on August 10th through 11th. So you can sign up for that. You've got some time. But, August is busy, and I cannot believe it's August. What happened to the summer?
I don't know. And I was just looking at that going, every year they have this conference, and a lot of times Temple comes for it, and it seems like it's early because I was thinking back to school, it's August 10th, but my son goes back to school on the 13th.
Mine does too.
So, yes, I'm with you. Where did the summer go?
Where did the summer go?
Tweet. It went away. We still have at least 2 more weekends. We need to make sure we have a good time.
We're going to have fun. I'm definitely going to have fun at the Ride for Autism on Saturday. And if any of you want to come over to Sagebrush, it's such a fun place. Have you been there?
I have been to the Sagebrush.
Yes, it's so fun. And, it's just great. They have an outdoor area and trains, and they're going to have live bands. And it's on the weekends, it's a motorcycle heaven. So if your
I did not realize that.
Yeah. If your kids like motorcycles, and of course for some the noise is an issue, so you might want to bring, something to cover their ears and help with that if they're sensitive. But come on out.
Very cool. And I unfortunately, I say every year that I can't make it to that. I have a huge wedding to go to.
Well,
one of my very best friends.
That's fortunate.
Well, I wish that they were on different weekends because I'd like to. Suzanne and I were talking this morning about how we'd like to clone ourselves and be able to go to more than one thing at a time.
Wouldn't that be great?
I said while we're doing it, can I get 2? Can I get 2 clones?
Yeah, I'd like 3, 4.
And she said, well, while we're doing it, why don't we do 5? I said, I think there's a movie about that.
Okay.
I think isn't there a movie
and
that
it gets out of control?
City?
Yeah.
Yes. But I think it is important as the summer winds down, as everybody gets ready to go back to school, find one more thing to do that's fun. Don't you think that's a thing to do?
The summer was too short, and I think that we need to make this last month a great one.
Absolutely.
And for our children and ourselves, be kind to yourself, give yourself some rest. Give yourself some relaxation, go drink some lemonade and put your toes in the sand and forget about your troubles for a while, right?
Yeah, even if it's just a short mental vacation. Take the mental vacation if you need to. I know finally the other night, my husband and my son go swimming almost every night in our community pool. And I just have been going and haven't had much time to do that. And I said, no, I'm going swimming with the 2 of you. And they were shocked. And I thought, well, that's a symptom of something.
Yeah.
They're shocked that I'm going to go swimming with them.
Right.
And it was so lovely. And we got to sleep a full hour earlier, all of us did, because we came back and were relaxed from it. And I thought, okay,
we got to do more of this.
We all have to do more of this. And the shame thing that I have to admit to was the other night I was in the middle of doing something. I was writing something and on the phone, and my son came to me and said, Mom, come dance with us. And I said, I'll be right there. And by the time I got there, they were done. And it was really a wake-up call to me about, he's 10 now, and someday he's not going to say, come dance with me.
That's right.
You can't miss these moments. It really, I like when I realized that I was sick. I was like, there was something more important.
But you can't beat yourself up either. It's a lesson.
No, I got to move on. But learn and move on.
No regrets.
and
move on. But we're telling all of you out there, make this last month the best month of the summer for yourselves, for your kids, and everybody needs a little R&R.
Yeah, make some time for it. Absolutely. We're here at the end of the show, and I just want to bring home a couple of points that tomorrow, BCBA Angela Persicki will be here answering your questions, as will Ashley Colas. We do great stuff with Ashley.
Oh.
Ashley is now a BCBA.
Okay.
She passed her boards.
Great.
And she tells us about great items to buy, and tomorrow she's doing the review of backpacks before back to school.
Okay.
And pencils, from the tri-grips to the weighted pencils and things like that. So if you're interested in that and wanting to know what to buy because you're having handwriting issues, Ashley's going to cover that for us tomorrow.
Great.
So, and then next Wednesday, we are not here. We're taking that.
Okay.
There's no show next week. We're letting Emily take some time off, so you and I have to take some time off.
Okay.
We're forced.
From this, but not from Act Today. Act Today never sleeps.
No, but what day is the 10th through the 11th? Maybe you and I should head out to this conference.
Well, I think it's a weekend, I'm sure. But we'll look at the calendar.
We'll look at the calendar. We'll see. Maybe that's something we should do.
Maybe.
Anyway, so Emily, I don't even think we have time to cycle through all the different ways that you can get in contact with us. But as we go, I'm going to remind you of two things.
Okay.
One, that we need people desperately to sign up, subscribe to our YouTube page. If we get, this morning we only needed 24 more people, and then we can stream live simultaneously on YouTube, which means people can watch us live on their tablet devices.
Oh, that's great.
24 people we needed this morning. So go to our YouTube page, subscribe, and let's make that happen. It'll be free, and you can watch it on your iPad, you can watch it on your Nobby, you can watch it on your Android device. And also, only a couple of more days left to buy the T-shirt.
Gems Robot.
Yes, from Paper Clouds Apparel, which 50% of the proceeds go to Autism Care and Treatment Today for those grants that are so important. You only have till Monday to buy the T-shirts, the hats, and the tote bags.
The tote bag. I think I'm going to get the tote bag and Wyatt the T-shirt.
Yes, I've put in an order for some of the tote bags so I can give them for teacher gifts.
Great idea.
For holiday. I'm always scrambling for what that is.
Great idea.
So, and then you can put a note with it saying portion of the proceeds from this bag went to Autism Care and Treatment Today.
Very good. And who doesn't, why is it when I go into the grocery store, I never remember to bring my recyclables?
I've assigned Jem that, and he forgets too. I'm the same way, getting the paper bag.
Yeah, so we all need those.
We do need them. Yeah. Everybody can use another good, nice tote bag. And we need more grants for Act Today. Anyway, we're out of time.
We're out of time.
But I'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Central Time. And until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me.
There you go. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.